When people talk about Monkey D. Luffy, they usually speak of the boy who set sail from Fuchsia Village with nothing more than a straw hat, a dream, and an appetite that could swallow the seas themselves. They describe the future pirate king, the warrior who defeated tyrants, toppled warlords, and shook the very foundations of the world government. But today, let us step away from the grand battles, the legendary rivalries, and the epic journeys across the Grand Line. Today, we're going to explore a far more personal, curious, and almost impossible question. What are the chances of marrying Luffy? At first glance, the question feels like a joke, a playful what if, tossed into late-night anime discussions or shared between fans who adore the Straw Hat Captain. After all, how could someone even imagine marrying a man like Luffy, who spends more time thinking about meat than romance, and who views freedom above all else? But the more you think about it, the more the question begins to take shape. Because to even consider what it would mean to marry Luffy, you have to dive deep into his personality, his journey, his values, and the unique aura that makes him one of the most beloved characters in anime history. And so, we begin this voyage, not across the oceans of One Piece, but across the landscape of imagination. Let us set sail into the unknown waters of possibility. Could you, or anyone, truly win the heart of Monkey D. Luffy? The heart of a captain. Before anything else, let us examine who Luffy truly is at his core.
Luffy is not like other captains, nor is he like other shonen protagonists. From the moment he first declared his dream of becoming king of the pirates, it was clear that his heart beats to a different rhythm. Unlike most pirates, he doesn't care for gold, treasure, or wealth. Unlike many heroes, he doesn't seek glory or fame. What drives him is freedom, the absolute, untouchable ability to live his life without chains. Now, imagine trying to marry someone whose very soul resists chains of any kind. Marriage, in many ways, is a bond, a tie, a commitment. Would Luffy even see it as possible? Or would he laugh and say, "Marriage? That sounds boring. I'd rather eat meat." At first glance, it seems the chances of marrying him are close to zero. But that's only if you think of marriage as ordinary. If you redefine it, if you see marriage not as a cage, but as an adventure shared between two people, then maybe, just maybe, there's hope. Because for Luffy, everything in life must be an adventure. His bonds are not forged out of obligation, but out of shared dreams. He gathers his crew not because he needs servants or followers, but because he finds people who share his vision, who have their own dreams, and who will set sail beside him. To marry Luffy, then, is not to tie him down, but to set sail with him, side by side, into the endless horizon. The kind of person Luffy could love. Let us ask the next question. What kind of person could Luffy even fall in love with? This is a puzzle because throughout the series, Luffy has shown little to no romantic interest. He's oblivious to flirting, immune to seduction, and hilariously uninterested in anything that distracts him from his main goals. While Sanji faints at the sight of women and Zoro grumbles through his stoic silence, Luffy simply laughs and continues eating. So what does that mean? Does it mean Luffy is incapable of love? Of course not. It simply means that for Luffy, love cannot be something shallow or forced. He is a man of pure instincts. He follows his gut, his feelings, and his sense of adventure. He doesn't overthink relationships. He simply bonds with people who feel right. That's why his connection to his crew runs deeper than blood. To marry Luffy, then, you would have to be someone extraordinary. Not extraordinary in the way of power, though strength helps, but extraordinary in spirit. Someone who matches his energy. Someone who shares his hunger for freedom. Someone who laughs in the face of danger. Above all, someone who doesn't try to change him, but who embraces his wildness. Imagine for a moment, standing on the deck of the Thousand Sunny, wind whipping through your hair, and Luffy turning to you with that wide, unstoppable grin. He wouldn't say, "I love you" in a poetic speech. No, he would say something simple like, "You're fun, let's keep going together." And for Luffy, that would be the ultimate declaration of love. The adventures of marriage on the seas. But what would marriage with Luffy even look like? This is where imagination must stretch itself, because it would never be ordinary. Forget candlelit dinners, quiet evenings, or traditional homes. With Luffy, marriage would be an endless journey across the Grand Line. Your honeymoon wouldn't be in Paris or Venice, it would be in Sky Island, Fishman Island, or even the fiery depths of Punk Hazard. Every day would be a new adventure. You might wake up to find yourself surrounded by sea kings, only for Luffy to leap into action with his rubber fists flying. You might spend afternoons exploring mysterious islands, chasing after treasure maps, or simply trying to keep him from eating the entire week's supply of food in one sitting. But alongside the chaos would be joy. Because if there's one thing Luffy brings into the lives of everyone he meets, it's happiness. His laughter is infectious, his energy boundless. Even in the darkest of times, he finds a way to smile and make others smile. And in marriage, that kind of joy is priceless. Of course, it wouldn't be easy. Being married to Luffy would mean constant danger. Enemies would appear at every corner: marines, warlords, rival pirates. You would have to be strong, not just physically, but emotionally. You would have to accept that your life would never be safe or predictable. But in exchange, you would live a life unlike any other. A life of freedom, adventure, and boundless love, expressed not through words, but through action. The symbolism of the straw hat. Now let us consider one of the most iconic symbols of Luffy, his straw hat. Given to him by Shanks, it is more than just a piece of clothing. It represents his dream, his promise, his identity. To Luffy, the straw hat is sacred. He never lets anyone damage it, and when he does entrust it to someone, it's always a sign of the deepest respect. What if, one day, Luffy were to place that hat gently on your head? What if, in his own way, that was his version of a wedding ring? After all, Luffy is not a man of tradition. He doesn't care about ceremonies or rituals. But if he were to share the one object he values above all else, it would mean more than any vow spoken in a church or temple. Imagine the scene. A quiet moment after a great battle, the sea calm and the stars shining. Luffy looks at you, his grin softer now, and he places the straw hat on your head. "Take care of it," he says. That, in Luffy's world, would be his way of saying, "I love you, and I trust you with my dream." The odds and the fantasy. So what are the chances of marrying Luffy? If we measure it by real-world logic, the odds are slim. He doesn't think about romance, doesn't seek it, and may never truly settle down. But in the world of One Piece, where the impossible becomes reality every day, who's to say it couldn't happen? The truth is, marrying Luffy isn't about statistics or logic. It's about spirit. It's about whether you have the heart to sail with him, to fight alongside him, and to embrace the chaos that follows wherever he goes. For Luffy, love isn't flowers and poetry. It's loyalty, laughter, and shared adventure. And so, while the odds may be low, they're not zero. Because if there's one thing we've learned from watching Luffy's journey, it's that he makes the impossible possible. If he can punch a celestial dragon, defeat warlords, and declare war on the world government, then maybe, just maybe, the idea of him marrying someone isn't so far-fetched after all. When you think of marrying Luffy, one thing becomes immediately clear. You're not only marrying a man, you're marrying his entire world.
Unlike ordinary relationships where two people build a life together in one place, being with Luffy means stepping into the very eye of a storm that is constantly moving, growing, and shaking the seas themselves. To be his partner is to be part of the Straw Hat Pirates, to live among them, and to carve your future in the same chaotic, adventurous rhythm that has defined Luffy's life since the moment he set sail. The extended family. The Straw Hat Pirates' marriage would never be just between you and him. His crew would become your family, whether you liked it or not. And let's be honest, being accepted by them might be even harder than winning Luffy's heart. Zoro, the stoic swordsman, would likely size you up first. His loyalty to Luffy is unshakable, and he would need to know that you're not a distraction, not a weakness, but someone who could stand on your own 2 feet. Zoro respects strength, not just physical, but mental. If you can hold your ground against his intimidating glare, if you can prove that you won't crumble in the face of danger, you might just earn his nod of approval. Sanji, on the other hand, would shower you with exaggerated affection, at least at first. But beneath the flirtation, he too would be watching closely. For all his womanizing antics, Sanji's devotion to Luffy runs deep, and he wouldn't want anyone hurting his captain. Once he realized that your feelings were genuine, he would likely treat you with respect, though don't expect him to stop calling you my love every chance he gets. Nami, Robin, Usopp, Frankie, Brook, and Chopper each would have their own way of testing you. Nami would want to know if you can handle the chaos of life at sea, if you understand that treasure isn't just about gold, but about memories and bonds. Robin would quietly observe you, her intellect always sharp, ensuring that your intentions align with the Straw Hat dream. Usopp would probably exaggerate his doubts, but eventually warm to you once he saw your loyalty. Frankie would be thrilled to have another Nakama on board, while Brook would serenade you with endless songs, teasing about your marriage to the captain. And Chopper, sweet Chopper, would simply want to know if you make Luffy happy. If you passed their unspoken tests, the crew would embrace you as one of their own. And that, perhaps, is the truest form of marriage in the world of One Piece. Not just a union of 2 people, but a union of dreams, friendships, and family. Rivals in love. But let's not fool ourselves. You wouldn't be the only one with eyes on Luffy. Though he has never shown romantic interest, the world is full of people who admire him, who are drawn to his spirit. Some might even imagine themselves as his partner. Could you handle the rivals that would inevitably appear? Consider Boa Hancock, the pirate empress, one of the most powerful and beautiful women in the world. Despite her icy demeanor toward most men, she has fallen hopelessly in love with Luffy. She admires his purity, his strength, and his refusal to treat her like a goddess or a weapon. To her, he is the one man worthy of her heart. If you wanted to marry Luffy, you would have to face the silent challenge of Boa Hancock, whose love is fierce and unrelenting. Could you stand against someone who commands entire armies and turns men to stone with a glance? Then there are others, admirers, allies, or even rivals from different seas. Some might love him openly, while others might simply envy the bond you share with him. To marry Luffy is to put a target on your back, not only from enemies, but from would-be lovers who believe they deserve him more. And yet, this rivalry is not necessarily a curse. Because if you can stand firm, if you can show the world that your bond with Luffy is unbreakable, then every rival becomes another adventure, another challenge to prove your worth. The world's reaction. Let's imagine for a moment the day the news breaks. Straw Hat Luffy, future Pirate King, has married. The world would erupt in chaos. Newspapers would spread the story across every island. Bounty posters would suddenly take on a new significance, and whispers would travel from the East Blue to the New World.
The world government would undoubtedly panic. Marriage is not just romance, it's alliance, loyalty, and permanence. If Luffy were to marry, especially someone of influence, it could shift the balance of power across the seas. Would the world government fear that his marriage would strengthen his claim to the title of Pirate King? Would they see it as another declaration of war? Very likely. Meanwhile, other pirate crews would laugh, cheer, or rage. Some would mock the idea of the carefree Luffy tying himself down. Others would fear that his bond with a partner would make him even stronger, more dangerous. And among the common people, the villagers, the wanderers, the oppressed, there would be joy. Because for them, Luffy's story has always been one of hope, of defying the impossible. His marriage would be seen as proof that even legends have hearts, that even kings can love. Marriage without romance? But here lies the strangest paradox. Can you truly marry someone who has never once shown interest in romance? Luffy is, at his core, innocent in matters of the heart. He doesn't blush, doesn't stutter, doesn't chase after love the way so many other characters do. His life is about dreams, not dates. And yet, perhaps that is precisely why marriage with Luffy is so fascinating. Because love in his world is not about flowers and flirtation, it's about loyalty. Look at how he treats his crew. Look at how far he goes to protect them, to save them, to ensure their dreams are realized. That is his love. He may not say it in romantic words, but he lives it in every action. If you were to marry Luffy, it wouldn't be a marriage of passion in the traditional sense. It would be a marriage of shared journeys, of laughter, of endless support. Your love story would not be written in stolen kisses under the moonlight, but in battles fought side by side, in meals shared after long days, in the quiet moments when his grin tells you more than words ever could. The challenges of being his partner. Of course, the dream of marrying Luffy is not without its hardships. Life with him would be demanding, even overwhelming. You would have to accept his flaws, of which there are many. His endless appetite would mean constant struggles for food. His recklessness would lead to countless dangerous situations. His stubbornness would test your patience more times than you can count. There would be days when you might wonder if it's worth it, if the chaos of life at sea is too much to bear. But then you would look at him, standing tall with his straw hat casting a shadow over his determined eyes, and you would remember why you chose him in the first place. Because Luffy is not perfect, but he is real. He is raw, unfiltered, unashamed of who he is. And to love him is to embrace that imperfection. A marriage that redefines love. In many ways, marrying Luffy would redefine what marriage even means. It would not be about comfort or tradition. It would be about freedom, about the courage to face the unknown together. It would be about living every day as if it were an adventure, never knowing what comes next, but always believing that, whatever it is, you'll face it together. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson Luffy teaches us. Love is not about possession. It's not about binding someone to you. It's about walking beside them, no matter where the road or the sea may lead. And in that sense, to marry Luffy is to marry not just a man, but a philosophy. The philosophy of freedom, laughter, and dreams. Imagining the ceremony. Let's indulge in one last fantasy. Imagine the day of the wedding itself. Where would it take place? What would it look like? For Luffy, the perfect wedding would not be in a grand cathedral or royal palace.
No, it would be on the deck of the Thousand Sunny, surrounded by his crew, the sea stretching endlessly around you. The decorations would be simple, maybe streamers and flags made by Usopp, maybe flowers gathered by Chopper and Robin. Sanji would prepare a feast so massive it could feed an entire Navy fleet, and Zoro would probably fall asleep halfway through the ceremony. And Luffy? He would stand there in his usual clothes, straw hat perched proudly on his head, grinning from ear to ear. He wouldn't give a long speech. He wouldn't even fully understand the seriousness of the moment. But when it came time to make a promise, he would look at you and say the only words that matter. Let's keep sailing together. And with that, the adventure of marriage would begin. The question of marrying Luffy has taken us through the seas of imagination, into his heart, his crew, and the trials of being by his side. But now, let us look ahead, beyond the present, into the future. What would life truly be like with Luffy as your partner once he reaches his ultimate dream, when Monkey D. Luffy becomes the Pirate King? Life beside the Pirate King. To be married to Luffy is to stand beside the most powerful, most free man on the seas. The Pirate King is not a ruler who sits on a throne. He is not a monarch who hides behind walls. He is a dreamer, an adventurer, someone who leads not by command but by spirit. Life beside him would be as unpredictable as ever. But imagine what it would mean. The One Piece discovered, the seas charted, the mysteries of the Void Century revealed. With such knowledge and power, the world would never be the same. And through it all, Luffy would remain the same boy who once stretched his arms toward the horizon, hungry for freedom. To be his partner in this moment would mean witnessing history itself, not as a bystander, but as a part of it. Your days would still be filled with chaos. Battles would never truly end. Rivals, marines, and world powers would continue to test the Pirate King. But in those battles, your bond with him would be your anchor. When the seas roared and storms rose, you would stand together, unshaken, because you would know that nothing could break the bond you forged. The legacy of love. But let us ask a deeper question. What legacy would your marriage leave behind? For Luffy, legacy has never been about statues or titles. It has always been about the people he touches, the freedom he inspires, the laughter he spreads. To be married to him is to become part of that legacy. The world would remember not only Luffy's battles, but his love story. They would tell tales of how the Pirate King found someone who could match his spirit, someone who shared his dream, someone who never tried to bind him, but instead set sail with him. Children would grow up hearing those stories, not just of his strength, but of his heart. And perhaps, if fate allowed, you and Luffy would have children of your own, free-spirited, wild, and full of laughter. Imagine little ones running around the Sunny, chasing after Chopper or pestering Frankie to build them toys. Imagine Luffy teaching them how to stretch their arms or telling them bedtime stories of battles that shook the seas. In those moments, you would see a softer side of him, the man who fights for freedom, but also the man who cherishes the simple joy of family. The ultimate test of love. Of course, even the strongest love faces trials. To be with Luffy would mean enduring separations, dangers, and sacrifices. There may be times when he disappears for days, weeks, even months, chasing a battle or a mystery. There may be nights when you wonder if he will return. But the test of love in Luffy's world is not absence, it is trust. He has always believed in his crew, always trusted them to hold their ground even when he wasn't there. That same trust would define your marriage. You would learn to trust him, not blindly, but with faith built over countless adventures. And he, in turn, would trust you to remain by his side, no matter how wild the storm. This kind of love is not fragile. It is not built on constant reassurance. It is built on belief in each other, in freedom, in dreams. And that is why it could last. A world changed by love. Let us step even further into fantasy. What if Luffy's marriage changed the world itself? The seas of One Piece are driven by alliances, families, and bloodlines. From the D-Clan to the Celestial Dragons, from pirate crews to royal houses, every bond carries weight. If Luffy were to marry, the world would watch carefully. Who is this person who captured the heart of the Pirate King? What kind of alliance does this marriage represent? Your bond with him could inspire others. Villages once oppressed might believe in love again. Pirates who once thought only of power might begin to see the value of companionship. Even enemies might pause, if only for a moment, to reflect on the strange miracle of a man like Luffy finding love. Because that's the truth of it. Luffy is not an ordinary man. His very existence bends the rules of the world. And if someone like him can love, can marry, then maybe there is hope for everyone. The final horizon. At the end of every journey lies a horizon. For Luffy, that horizon is endless. He has always sought not a final destination, but the freedom to keep sailing. So what would the happily ever after look like for him? It wouldn't be a quiet life in a small village. It wouldn't be retirement on an island paradise. For Luffy, happiness is the sea, the wind, the adventure. And for you, if you truly love him, happiness would be the same. The final horizon would not be the end, it would be a continuation, forever sailing, forever laughing, forever free. Picture the two of you, older now, but no less full of life. The crew has changed, new generations sail the seas, but you and Luffy remain together on the sunny, still chasing dreams, still chasing freedom. That is your happily ever after, not in stopping, but in never stopping. Conclusion: the impossible made possible. So, what are the chances of marrying Luffy? If you measure it by logic, by tradition, by the way we understand romance, the odds are slim. Luffy does not think of love the way others do. He does not seek marriage, does not crave romance. His heart belongs to freedom. But if you measure it by spirit, by possibility, by the sheer unpredictability of the world of One Piece, the odds are greater than you think. Because marrying Luffy is not about romance. It is about trust, loyalty, laughter, and adventure. It is about becoming part of his dream and letting his dream become part of you. And if there's one lesson we've learned from Monkey D. Luffy, it's that nothing is truly impossible. He has defied kings, gods, and fate itself. So why not love? Why not marriage? Why not the impossible dream of standing beside him, forever sailing into the endless sea? In the end, the chances of marrying Luffy are not about numbers or probabilities. They are about heart. And if your heart beats as wildly, as freely, as fearlessly as his, then maybe, just maybe, you already have a chance.